Welcome to Making It Here. I'm Brant. This is my co-host,
Selina.
And we're here with Dom from Kelowna Fruit and Veggies.
Hello.
Yeah, thanks for coming out to, having us come to you.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. Yeah. So I like to start off with asking, how did you get to this area, this farm, this region?
Yeah, so I'm from Edmonton, and I was snowboarding a lot and traveling to the mountains from Edmonton is at least 4 hours, give or take. And so do that 8 or 9 times a season, it kind of adds up, and I question, what am I doing? I'm just going to move to the mountains because I like to snowboard. I like camping and hiking as well. So the mountains are just my home. It's much nicer out here. And as far as Kelowna, because I was actually looking at Fernie or Revi, both mountain towns.
Revi is in Revelstoke?
Yeah. And I knew some people here at that time, and so it just was easy to move here since I knew some people. And I visited a friend here a couple times, snowboarded that big white, and I was like, yeah, let's do it. It's nice. So that was a little over 5 years ago now. And the farm was just mere luck, which, we'll get into the story in a bit here, but given where I'm at now, it's just like, wow, okay, cool. But yeah, during COVID, I was looking for work. I got laid off. I had a job lined up, and then COVID kind of hit, and so that fell. They didn't need the workers anymore, and I was just looking for work, so I started picking corn. Just as a temporary seasonal job, and that spidered into some other things, and I stayed on with the farm until late December. We were clearing out a section of the orchard that used to be on the property, and the following season I came back and I actually approached the farmer and said, look, I want to actually grow myself. Can we work out some sort of a deal so that I can get some land, grow my own produce, I'll sell it, work out whatever I need to work out. I just need the land to grow. And so during that season, I grew things that weren't already grown on the farm, and he let me sell my produce at the fruit stand that was already established. So I already had a clientele.
Perfect.
And they saw that I was into it. I was diligent for the year. I learned a lot. That was the summer where we had a heat spell in June. 30 degrees plus, early June or mid-June, something like that. And, I was still learning the irrigation system. I didn't really know how much water was going on. I wasn't diligent with checking my water. And here I'm growing a lot of cold weather stuff, lettuce, spinach, broccoli.
just like...
Yeah, no, everything bolted. I lost the majority of my lettuce and spinach. The broccoli, I managed to salvage a little bit. But, when you see a yellow leaf on your broccoli plant, that's hard to come back from. But yeah, after that first year, they saw that I was, involved and I had a passion for it. And so the following year, so that'd be 2 years ago now, they offered me a junior partnership position. And now we're 2 years into it. We had another successful season this year. We expanded. We built a fruit stand earlier this season. So the building alone drew a lot more people in, and yeah, we're growing, and we're getting new clientele every season, and we got the corn maze and kind of more the agritourism side of things that also brings people in. If you're not looking for fruits and veggies, at least you want to get lost in the corn maze.
I was going to say, you're looking to get lost.
Yeah, exactly. Some good family fun, right? Which you can never have too much. I think there's always a need for that, right?
Yeah, and having an opportunity for people, it's not just like a grocery store you go through. You go through into a jungle of multitude where everything looks the same. You pull it into a big cart, somebody goes beep, 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 and you hand your money over. Yeah. And that's your experience at getting
very removed
your food stuff. Yeah. With this coming out, you say, hey, that piece was grown there.
Yeah.
That piece was grown there.
Yeah.
Hey, and then the family can come. You can hang out for a while.
Yeah.
Like spend some actual time with the land, which is closer, I think, to our human nature.
Absolutely.
Than all of this sort of artificial infrastructure.
Yeah.
So what does this farm specialize in, would you say?
Our 3 main crops would be corn, strawberries, and melons. And we actually have a few types of melons. We do cantaloupe, we do watermelon, and even that there's 3 watermelon that we have. We have yellow, orange, and then your classic red, both seeded and seedless red, and honeylope, which is a honeydew cantaloupe cross. So yeah, those are our big ones. But then we have peaches, plums, apricots, carrots, onions, jalapenos, lettuce, beets.
Couple of them right here.
Yeah, we got pumpkins, some jalapenos, the squash as well. We do butternut and spaghetti. So yeah, there's lots happening for sure.
Yeah, all year.
Yeah.
Yeah, you probably start off in February with your planning?
No, actually, so we don't transplant anymore.
Okay.
The only things that we did transplant were onions, silly enough, and like ridiculous, and tomatoes. But last year we invested in a piece of equipment that allows us to not have to transplant, and so can't divulge that. That's still a company secret.
That was my question.
Yeah, no, it's still too new.
That's exciting.
But yeah, I can, so with that, it extends our growing season, so we don't have to transplant, and we'll be first to market with our watermelon even. We were growing cantaloupe. We had cantaloupe ready a month earlier than last year, and so...
That's an incredible market advantage. Anybody
is.
that can produce something a month, like 1/12 out of their competition.
Yeah, that's a long time to build up your clientele, right? If you're a month ahead of everyone else...
High five. That's great.
Yeah, and it was a bit of a gamble, right? Because that piece of equipment, I don't think anyone in the valley has it. May not even be aware that it exists or that it's possible doing it that way, right? And so when we took on the risk, we didn't know if it was actually going to work the way it needed to work. So we did that with our tomatoes, peppers, and the watermelon, and the melons. And next year we're going to look at potentially doing it with corn, just to see, Already we're seeding our corn like mid-April. And so March we start working on the land. We have cleanup to do because we let things winter over, especially the vines. The melon, you're not going to clean up a melon plant while it's green. That's a lot of work, and you're going to tear up the plastic. So we use plastic mulch on our rows. For water, moisture retention and weed suppression. And we wrap those up at the end of the season, but with the vines, we let it winter over. That way you can just go in the spring, rake it off. It's super easy. Same with pumpkins. And then we pick up the mulch that was left over and the water tape. And then, we're tilling from there and then getting our beds ready to seed for corn. And just kind of sorting out where we're going to be planting stuff and
so you love it so much you have no time to snowboard, right?
Well
you'll squeeze it in.
Well, luckily I snowboard in January, February, but come March definitely less snowboarding happening.
So growing up, did you have a connection with gardening or farming or
loosely? My grandma had her entire backyard as a garden. So, growing up, I'd go there and we'd go harvest carrots out of the garden and rinse them off in the rain barrel, and that was always fun. Whatever raspberries we could find too, or she had one apple tree for sure. She might have had 2, I'm not sure. So there's that. My grandpa, had a cattle farm, so it's in my blood. Growing up, I had a garden. Well, my dad had a garden. My mom never really had a garden. And so when I was living with my dad before I moved out here, we had an 8 by 16 foot garden bed, and then along the fence there was a 2 foot garden bed going on the back side and along the side. So lots of growing room, and we grew potatoes, carrots, onions, tomatoes, zucchini, cucumber. I built a greenhouse over half of the garden bed. No idea what I was doing. I was just putting things together and took poly wrap and made it work. And if I were to do it again, I wouldn't build it the way I built it, but it worked. It served its purpose. especially in Edmonton when, your
yeah.
growing season is pretty short.
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to extend, an extra 2 months on my growing season. Cucumbers loved it, so much so that they grew into a jungle and got mildew. There's mold that started developing because there was no airflow. And again, I had no idea what I was doing with this greenhouse. So I wasn't keeping things trimmed and there was no airflow. It got really hot in there at one point, so I had to cut windows like flaps so that I could open and close it as needed. I bought a solar panel and wired up a little car fan that you'd plug in the cigarette lighter. So I cut the cigarette lighter, wired it together, and I had a little fan going in there. And yeah, it was sweet. So I just took that, and when I moved out here, I actually had, a loose dream of potentially owning greenhouses, growing organic food, and supplying restaurants. So coming out here, I already had an idea of wanting to grow. And yeah, just by circumstances, I end up on this farm and I'm able to plant a flag here and really help grow it. So it's good because the owner and the partner are kind of old school, let's say. They're not getting any younger and they need someone who's going to want to take over at some point. And so I'm kind of new blood, some fresh blood into the farm that can keep it going. And yeah.
Wonderful. That's what we really need.
Absolutely.
I'm sure you've read all the stats across the country of where it's like 90% of the farmers are past retirement age.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Something like that. Very.
It doesn't
high.
surprise me because, honestly, the new generation, nobody's interested in farming. It's not easy work, it's long hours. It may not be as labor intensive as something like landscaping, let's say, or, there are definitely more laborious jobs. We have a lot of machinery. We're I want to say a kind of a unique farm in a sense. Like we're not
hybrid?
Small. Yeah, we are kind of hybrid. We're not really small market gardening, but we're not a large scale farm either. We're really small to mid size. And so we have the machinery and that allows us to actually have a lot less laborers, which really it's just the three of us that farm. We seed everything. For the strawberry plants, we get help planting the plants because we use 1-year-old rootstocks when we plant those. And we had help with planting the pumpkins the one day. Other than that, it's just the three of us, like seeding,
that's pretty impressive.
harvesting. Yeah.
And that's how many acres?
So here we have 24 acres, and there's another section that we probably use 4 acres worth of growing corn. So here we have 5 acres of corn maze and maybe almost an acre of a shooting range for our air cannons. And then the rest is pretty well used as growing. So yeah.
That's actually, I think that's the kind of thing that we need to really educate people about. It's not like farming 100 years ago, or using animals and tilling and everything was like really hardcore.
Arduous, yeah, for sure. Yeah, slow, yeah.
Like she never had running water in the house and the farm ever her whole life. Then she moved out to running water somewhere else. So like my mom grew up that way too. Yeah. And you appreciate running water.
And we started out, and I always laughed because I just learned to drive the horses and do the rake and be able to do it and then they bought a tractor and then it was something new all the time. So as soon as you get comfortable, it moved on.
It changes,
but you guys sound like you made 100 leaps, 3 lifetimes of mine now in progress.
Well, the owner, he was fortunate enough, had a business that he sold prior, so he came into this with some financial backing. It wasn't, and that's the other thing with farmers nowadays, like try getting into farming. It's next to impossible. Land is ridiculously expensive. So, to buy land is really difficult. So let's say you lease, okay, that's fine. But then there's no guarantee that you're going to be on that land year over year either.
Yeah.
And then farming equipment, tractors are ridiculous. So to do it on a big enough scale where it's financially feasible, it's not easy. And so, again, I'm blessed in a way to just be able to come into this. And, I'm fortunate enough that the owner and partner, see something in me, for one. It's not anyone that they're going to would be willing to be a junior partner with. And to actually, like I said, it's not everyone that's going to want to do this work. I love being outside. I can't imagine being in a cubicle. I'm literally outside 24/7. And that's comes with its, benefits and
That's what
downfalls.
makes a farmer, somebody that loves that.
The outdoors, for sure.
Yeah. And that lifestyle.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not everyone that can handle 34-degree weather outside,
No, but I think it's like I want to educate people that things are actually so much easier now, and we have so many technological advantages.
True.
Machinery. I mean.
Well, yeah, the fact that we're 3 of us managing over 24 acres, and we're not growing one crop. We got multiple crops.
Yeah.
And so each one is slightly different, but for the most part, I mean, we have clocks for watering, so that's all automated, which again, like you said, the technology that's there for 3 people to manage that kind of, farmland, it wasn't feasible 50, 60 years ago.
No.
We needed a lot more laborers.
And the ancillary benefits, I think, are another thing I try to talk to people a lot about. Like, yeah, there's hard work, but, what does the average person do when they're working in the office? Well, then they get a gym membership. And the gas and the time and the spending on the road between the office and the house. Here, you live where you work, you walk outside. I mean, you have to also be able to separate yourself
Life
from the work.
Yeah.
But
which can be very difficult.
I'm a testament to that. And then, your exercise is built in.
Yeah.
You keep healthy.
Absolutely.
The benefits are that you connect with land that is the origin of life, and you get to have that health, and you get to also have that knowledge and experience, which nobody, I think that's one of the biggest lacking things now, is people that haven't done something with their own hands don't understand the experience that gives them, the growth, the strength, the overall wisdom that comes from seeing a reflection of nature. I mean, we can build a bunch of man-made things and then try to understand life through our man-made things, but most of the time it's dysfunctional in some way.
Yeah,
we've made something perfect, but we've destroyed a forest.
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of those man-made things are a reflection of nature anyway. Like, we design things based off of natural principles, and so whatever we build, you can also find things that operate in a similar manner in nature.
Yeah.
And so, to be able to try and recreate something, why try and recreate it when you can just enjoy what is, right?
Yeah.
And I like your analogy, like the thought process of being a farmer or working with your hands and being outside. Like, there's an integration with nature, like there's a natural process in that. I like to think of, there's a lot of research in infrared saunas and infrared light therapy, right, showing how that can heal a lot and lower inflammation, and it helps promote your cell apoptosis, the dying off of cells, because it's under stress, right? Well, you get that same red light from the sun during certain periods, and so again, I'm outside all day, I'm getting that benefit. And it's not a thing that I have to go out of my way to get, right? Or like going to the gym for exercise. It's all built in. So for sure, there's a healthy component, but...
And it's very unnatural when you think of the gym and stuff. Like, it's...
mechanistic kind of...
it's kind of, and I think that, in my opinion, the younger generation, like you said, that don't want to work, what I think they're lacking is that self-worth that you get from farming.
Absolutely. That's a good component,
You know that you're doing it, and if they don't try it, don't do anything, they don't, and I feel they don't have any self-worth because they've never got out there and did what it takes to get it.
Yeah.
And understood that also the feedback, like you get a feedback. It's easy with some, I think, technology or even another person to say, well, that's not working, you're not working, like something's your problem. But when you've gone out and actually it's your hands that tilled the soil, it's your hands that planted the seed, and then it's your hands that didn't turn the water on at the right time.
That didn't come out.
Like, there's a self-responsibility, I think, and a recognition of what it means to be, like I think you used the word dedicated, or in that same vein.
Right.
And then, like you said, then the owners of the property recognize that.
Yeah.
And then you start, it builds so much.
Yeah.
And that's only because you go out there with an open heart
Yeah.
and diligence. I think that's the word you used.
Diligent, yeah. I agree, and I look back at some of the ventures I've done throughout my life. Since coming to Kelowna, it's been a very entrepreneurial endeavor, and when I started working on the farm, even though it wasn't my intention to be here forever, just the fact that I was out in a part of the farm, and it just, I felt more whole, I guess you could say, or at least connected, right? I just felt like, yeah, this is my purpose. I can plant my flag here and be proud of that. And what you were saying with, you can see the direct result of your work. I love that. The fact that I plant this tiny little seed and give it some water, and just over enough time is now sustaining myself and a bunch of other people around me. And, we take pride in what we grow, and so everything we grow is delicious. I can't get enough of our produce, and it's nice to have our customers come to us and tell us, I've never tasted a strawberry this good before, or man, like your tomatoes just have so much flavor. I can't go to the store and buy them anymore.
Yes.
Yeah, and I was like, good. That was the goal, And same with watermelon. We guarantee our watermelon. If you have a bad one, bring it back. We don't care. Like, we want you bought something and you're expecting a level of quality there. We'll stand behind that. And it's different for us too, because we're hand picking things. So while I'm picking, it's easier to make sure everything's ripe, and you're picking it when it should be picked.
Yes.
Right? You're not picking it to ship and have it sit on the shelf to ripen, which it won't have the full flavor, full sugars. So yeah, I think that'd be the biggest thing that people don't really consider, is the difference between grocery store food and like farm fresh food. How big of an impact that would actually have on your life, both in nutrition and just in actually being able to enjoy what you're eating, because there's flavor.
Some cold old tomato that doesn't taste like a tomato.
Exactly. Just cardboard, or it has no flavor. Yeah.
I think I read somewhere that our bodies, even if we're not conscious of it, our bodies recognize the nutrient density. And so very often, you can get a piece of produce from the store and it looks all beautiful because they've thrown out the other 9 out of 10 that didn't look perfect.
Yeah.
And then, it's a lot of times grown in sawdust in some giant greenhouse in a country 3,000 miles away. And there's not much there that actually connects with the body.
No.
And so we eat way more than we need to. And then that sets up a whole more problem that we have too much in our guts. And so coming back to the soil, I think, is a solution for so many mental health, physical health, exercise, understanding, self-growth. It comes with when we do wholesome things. And I really appreciate when you said you felt more whole, because I think that's the big signal. And most people are crying out and they're trying to find something to fill their holes with social media and junk food and whole other things. And I'm part of that too. Sometimes just feels like I need something, and I reach in the wrong direction. And
we're all guilty of that,
probably
the human nature.
Yeah.
We don't have all the answers, and so we go for what we think. Sometimes we know it's not the right thing, but you have urges or impulses that are stronger than your will at that moment, and I think that comes back to community.
It was a stupid decision.
Yeah, exactly. Hindsight, it's always 20/20.
And then sometimes we reach that in the right direction, and it's not like McDonald's.
It's
not that instant sugars,
no.
Salt, cool explosions. It's, you do it and you do it again and you do it again, and then after a while, all the benefits just like the tide flowing in, just perfection.
Yeah.
And everything lines up better and better. I kind of refer a lot to things like Tai Chi, and talking to a Tai Chi master, and I spoke to them and they said, well, you do the form and you perfect the form and you do the form every day, and then after 10 years you maybe realize what you're getting from it, and that's the kind of discipline you need. And like with vegetables, it's a season. Like I laugh with people now, the trees that I'm trying to get planted will bring into their full production like when I'm 60. So it's like I really have to make good decisions and be thinking of the long investment.
That's probably where we've gone wrong so far. Is in our fast-paced world, it's easy to forget the long-term goal, or to be able to think long-term far enough into the future, where now, I mean, everything's instant. It's almost like, oh, I don't need to think that far because I can get anything I need whenever I want, almost, right?
Yeah.
Without taking into consideration that things take time. And that's something that I had to really come to terms with the farm, is things don't happen overnight, you know.
No instant gratification.
Exactly. You want to build a building. Hey, there's a cost to that. You can't just erect a building overnight and call it a day, you know. Like, so we started building these 2 buildings this year. The fruit stand, I mean, it's a much smaller building. It's 30 feet by 50 feet roughly, and just 4 walls, and pretty simple. So we had that up and running within 4 months, roughly, because we wanted to move in there for our season. Well, the barn out back, that's a different story. I mean, we're looking at 1.5 to 2 years before it's complete, and we're doing some work ourselves as much as we can, but it's still a big building. And
Yeah.
you know, there's that component, and then even just looking at a farming season. Once you actually go through the entire cycle from start to finish, then you get a much deeper understanding, a much more appreciation for time, understanding that, yeah, there's a time for sowing, there's a time for reaping, and there's a time for rest. That's just the cycle, and that's how life works.
Yes.
And until you can actually come to terms with that and be okay with those cycles, right? It's okay to go through your down times. It's okay, because you know the high times are coming.
Yeah.
But you also have to sow those seeds in order to get that. And so, I don't know, I just love farming. It's such a close related analogy, and I can see why, you know, a lot of the biblical parables are based on farming concepts, right? It is a very, what would you say, core piece of life, like just having those seasons and cycles.
What's that axiom, perhaps?
Yeah.
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 So, do you, like, I can understand as you started out really as essentially a worker, just doing,
Yeah.
you know, a very select job, and now as a junior partner, and you're looking at this, I imagine, as a lifestyle.
Yep.
And into the future. Do you have like core principles that you kind of carry each day, or where do you come from on making good decisions, like for health of you, health of your customers, health of the land?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think it starts with being able to provide the best possible produce, because I came into this, like, I understand food is medicine, essentially, right? Food is the information that your body needs in order to build itself up and heal. And if you don't have good food, then you don't have a good body. You know, that's like the fundamental basis of health. And so, as I'm still young, and I have lots to learn. I have mentors who are very conventional farmers, and I know there's a big movement in regenerative agriculture. So I'm now learning about soil health and ways to increase the biodiversity in the soil, so that, much like your body, you have a very diverse microbiome, right? There's not just one set of bacteria in you. There's a whole host of organisms that your body needs in order to function properly. And so, much like your microbiome, I see the soil in the same light. And it's just a matter of, again, like, I'm learning. So year over year, there's things that not only us as partners are, you know, talking about, we're learning how to do things differently, more efficiently. I'm taking the front on the soil side, because I'm the one who's actually interested in that and wants to push that, so that's fine. I don't have any issues with that. I've taken it upon myself to make sure that our soil is the highest quality, so that we can get the best quality produce. And yeah, I guess a lot of what I do is around that. As part of, like, I don't know, I think humility is a big one. And honesty. You know, I've listened to a lot of Jordan Peterson recently, and he talks a lot about just telling the truth. And as simple as of a concept that is, it can be very difficult in a lot of different situations. And one of the things that he said that struck me was to live the adventure of your life. And you can only do that by telling the truth, because if you tell a lie, whatever consequences you experience from that lie, you're not living your life adventure at that point. It's something akin to the spirit of the lie, right? It's you're experiencing the life of the spirit of the lie, and if you keep perpetuating that, it's not your adventure, right? And so there is a level of faith in operating that way, knowing that the best possible outcome will always come from the truth, no matter what the consequences are from that. They can be difficult, no doubt about it, but it's better than the alternative.
Yeah, and people don't actually believe that, because that's what I've always believed my whole life. You don't, and people were taught to lie.
What's a white lie?
And
it's just,
what
I don't want to hurt their feelings.
I know, but I've always been very upfront and truthful in my opinion, and people actually appreciate it.
Yes.
You come back and many people have said, they really appreciate the straightforwardness and not, does this dress look good on me? Oh yeah, you look lovely. And it makes you look like you're sick.
Oh, it's hard
because
to get
nobody
a
wants
straight
For
answer.
sure.
Yeah.
But I think there's a delivery to that, right? That's maybe where some people get hung up on, is like, oh, I can't tell the truth, that's going to hurt them. But it's like, okay, well, learn how to actually say the truth. Don't just be blunt and harsh about it.
Mm-hmm.
There is a level of finesse that you can learn to make it so that that's more receptive, right? It's not such a harsh blow, if you will.
Absolutely, or even humor. I
Yeah.
just find humor works really good in truth, and then everybody laughs about it and you kind of know it's true.
Yeah.
No, and I agree. Having that diversity and problem solving, like I tell people, that's probably one gift that I've received, is that I'm able to problem solve to some extent when it comes to figuring something out, making it work.
Yeah.
And every time I talk to someone, I'm reminded about how little I know. But I've still got, I think, something to share and knowledge, and one of the things is creating opportunities to talk with wonderful people with wonderful ideas.
Perfect. Thank you.
That. Thank you so much for this time today.
Yeah,
is there anything else that you
support your local farmer. That's all I can say.
Absolutely.
We will, because those strawberries that aren't off the farm are horrible.
Yeah, and I gotta try some of those this year. This coming year.
For sure.
Awesome, Dom. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It was wonderful.
Yeah, likewise.
Thanks.
And that's making it here. Thank you for joining us.